You know that feeling when you're looking through an old photo album and you see a picture of yourself as a baby? You're there laughing or maybe crying. You're clearly experiencing something, but you have zero memory of it. It's this weird, universal mystery, right? For pretty much all of us, the first few years of our lives are a total blank. Psychologists have a name for it: infantile amnesia. So, today, let's figure out where all those memories went.
No, seriously, just take a second. Try to pinpoint it. What's the absolute earliest thing you can consciously remember? Maybe it's a birthday party, or a favorite toy, the feeling of a specific blanket. Just try and picture it. How old do you think you were?
If that first memory you just thought of is from when you were about 3, 4, maybe even 5 years old, well, you're in good company. That's totally normal. It's like our personal history just has this big black hole at the very beginning. But why? We were definitely alive, we were learning things, we were feeling things. So were those memories just never saved, or did our brains just, I don't know, delete the files? Let's play detective and see if we can uncover the clues.
Okay, our first clue is all about the hardware, the physical brain itself. You have to think of a baby's brain less like a finished computer and more like a massive, kind of chaotic construction site. And that, as you're about to see, makes a huge difference for making memories.
Deep inside your brain is this little seahorse-shaped part called the hippocampus, and is absolutely crucial. This is basically the save button for your life's experiences. It's what takes something that just happened and helps turn it into a long-term memory you can recall later. Here's the problem, though. In a baby, that save button isn't fully installed yet. It's actually one of the last parts of the brain to fully mature.
So, if the brain isn't busy saving memories, what on earth is it doing? It is forming 700 new neural connections every single second. I mean, that number is just wild to think about. It's this incredible, explosive period of growth. But all of that rapid building is actually really bad for holding on to existing memories.
Just try to imagine you're writing a story in a notebook, but at the same time, someone is constantly adding new pages and ripping out old ones. That's pretty much what a baby's brain is like. You have this massive growth of new connections, but at the same time, the brain is also pruning or getting rid of connections that aren't being used to become more efficient. The whole system is just too unstable. Any memory that does get formed is like trying to write your name in the sand during a windstorm. It's just going to blow away before it can set.
All right, let's move on to our second clue. Because it turns out this isn't just a hardware issue, it's also a software issue. And the key piece of software we're talking about is language.
Think about how you remember things now, as an adult. Something happens and you automatically create a little story about it in your head. You know, I went to the coffee shop and saw my friend. That story, that narrative, is how your brain puts a label on the memory and files it away so you can find it again later. And that right there is the fundamental problem for a baby. They have plenty of experiences. They feel joy, they feel fear, they're curious, but they don't have the words yet to wrap those experiences into a neat little story. And without the language to label that file, the memory just gets lost in the gigantic archive of the brain. It's almost like it's saved in a file format that our adult, language-based minds just can't open anymore.
This brings us to our third clue, and this one's a little more philosophical. See, to have an autobiography, a story about yourself, you first have to have a sense of self.
I mean, it makes sense when you think about it. Our memories are the story of us. It's the story of me. But for the first year, year and a half of life, a baby doesn't really get that they are a separate person from the rest of the world. They're just kind of soaking everything in without a clear idea of I. Scientists have this really cool way to show this. It's called the Rouge Test. You sneak a little dot of lipstick or rouge on a baby's nose, and then you put them in front of a mirror. Before about 18 months old, the baby will look at the reflection, see the dot, and think it's another baby. They might even try to touch the mirror. But then, after that age, something just clicks. They see the reflection, realize that it's them, and they touch the red dot on their own nose. That's the dawn of self-awareness. And it's a huge step you have to take before you can even start writing the story of you.
Okay, so we've got an unstable brain, no language, and no real sense of self. It pretty much seems like case closed, right? But here's a little twist. What if those memories aren't actually gone? What if they're just hidden? So to get this, we have to understand that there are two basic types of memory. Explicit memories are the stories, the facts, the stuff you can consciously call up and talk about. Those are the memories we mostly lose from when we're babies. But then there are implicit memories, and those are different. They're the skills, the feelings, the stuff that's just kind of baked into who you are.
And this is where your baby years are still living. You don't remember the day you learned to walk, but you obviously know how to walk. You might not remember a specific scary moment with a dog, but you might just have this unexplained fear of them. The video file of the event might be gone, but the emotional data is still there. So that weird fear you have, or that deep sense of comfort you get from a certain smell, it could very well be an echo from a past that you can't consciously remember. Okay, so let's pull all these clues together and finally put a pin in the mystery of our missing memories. When you really boil it down, it's a three-part answer. First, the hardware just wasn't ready. Your hippocampus was way too busy growing to reliably save stable, long-term memories. Second, you didn't have the software. You didn't have the language you needed to create stories. And third, the main character of your story, you, hadn't really shown up yet.
And maybe that's the most beautiful way to think about all this. Maybe we don't remember being a baby because that's not the point of being a baby. Those first few years aren't about building a library of memories to look back on. They're about building the person, forging the connections and the emotional foundations that will allow you to have a future that's worth remembering in the first place.
So let's go right back to where we started, but now with this new perspective. Think about that first memory of yours again. Knowing what you know now, can you see how it might be more than just a random story? How it might be the very first chapter that you were finally able to write down for yourself? And what about all those unwritten pages that came before it? The ones that built the person you are today, but that you can never, ever read. It's pretty amazing to think about how we become who we are.